The Triple Trio with Hutchi, Richo and RS Dye. It's Hong Kong racing with the blinkers off.
Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new edition of the mighty Triple Trio. We look forward to super racing on Sunday with the best in the business in Clint Hutchison. Hutchie's Honkers absolutely on fire at the moment. And also the Hall of Fame jockey Raymond Shane Dye, aka Billy the Kid. Good to see you, Hutchbuster.
Shane doesn't need another nickname, Richo, but I'm sure he'll run with it. I think it was Golden Boy that he liked last week, so we'll look forward to chatting to him in a moment or two. But big weekend we've got, of course, some the best horses in Hong Kong stepping out in California Spangle and Lucky Swayness. And in Saturday in Sydney, we've of course got the championships, which is
the Queen Elizabeth, which is mouthwatering. Let's look at the week that was for you, and you finished in style with Alacrity, but first Spirited Express was terrific.
Yeah, we highlighted that this might be a race that they don't go that quick, and they certainly didn't. He was knocking on the door. There wasn't much between him and a few. We're fortunate enough we got the bob in, and he paid a nice little dividend. So he deserved that win. Bit of cushion in the track as well, which really helped. And Alacrity, this Chilean import, sat out the back. The pace was pretty good. Zach rode a patient race on him, and this isn't the end of the road for Alacrity. He's going to go on with the job. He's got form over further, and he's an exciting prospect. So, yeah, it was really affected by the rain, as other parts of the world were in the racing, really.
Yeah, and it was soft tempo, wasn't it? Yet he still came over the top. It was a terrific win. Billy the Kid, a.k.a. the Golden Boy, welcome once again.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Mate, fantastic. How did you view the week that was?
It's great racing. A lot of winners there on Sunday you could find because there was only two horses in a lot of races. I bet up on Brave Dreams. There was only two chances in that race. And also Golden Artie, there was only two chances in that race. And because they're $8, $9 and $7, I always go the longer price one. So I got a bit lucky.
We're going to have a lot of fun today. We've got a very, very special guest for our star power. It is the one and only Hugh Bowman. He will chat all things Hong Kong racing, but also with a little lens to Queen Elizabeth Day at Randwick, where he's got a good book of rides and trying to add to his superb record, then jumps on a plane and gets back for Group 2 racing in Hong Kong. So that's all coming up. Of course, the Whirlpool, we look at all the global racing, exceptional racing in Meydan, and all the figures have come through there as well. Genius or Slaughter, Sweet in Defeat file. We've literally got it all. But first, let's burst out of the gate. Well, we burst out of the gates, Hutch, and we start with the 300th Hong Kong winner to Benno Yung.
Yeah, well done to Benno. He's, of course, another sort of part of the progeny, I suppose, of John Size in terms of trainers that have worked under John, and Benno's done a good job to get those 300 up. I like this ride from Jerry Chow as well. I mean, he's a bit one-dimensional, Easy Snip, Shane, but he rode him what suited the horse. He took his time. There was an unlucky runner in the race, which we'll touch on a little bit later, but I thought Jerry rode Easy Snip pretty well. It was a nice start to the day.
Yeah, it was nice. When I had him on top, he was always going to get back. The horse you're mentioning, I forget its name now, but I'm sure you're going to bring it up again. I thought that was a two-horse race too. He was a bit unlucky, Clint, no doubt.
And Jamie Richards start his first ever Sha-Tin double. I know, Shane, you've had a lot to do with Jamie, and he's really finding his feet now in Hong Kong.
Taken a little while, didn't have a lot of runners early, but Zach gave these two very good rides. He rode them very patiently. They both got back and hit the line, and they can both win again. They were both impressive, Clint.
They were. I'm not sure on the day. The interesting thing about the whole day, Shane, was obviously pretty rain affected. The times were well outside of standard. I think it's probably been in between a 5, in Australia, what they'd say between a 5 and a 6, maybe at the higher end of a 5, soft 5. So, I thought there were a few of them probably worth forgiving in defeat, and others that may not get the same conditions. So that's just something to bear in mind. And we find it hard, I do personally, in Hong Kong, because as you know, we don't get that many wet tracks through the season. You've got to really get it during the meeting, and it can happen around this time of year, monsoonal season, but it can be difficult.
Clint, talking about rain, look, I'm being serious now. I really admire Richo. I think he's multi-talented, a genius. He can run one of the fastest 100 metres in the world. model. He can do anything. He's a superstar. But I found his kryptonite, right? And it's very disappointing. I have found something about him. I want you to watch this. Now, I don't know. Does anyone know the forecast for rain in Sydney? It's been...
No, it's going to be nice and sunny. I've been there during the week, Shane. A little light rain on Tuesday, and also Wednesday morning has cleared, and it'll be nice and sunny. We'll be on a soft 5 to 6.
Boy, oh boy, we've had some rain, haven't we?
Oh, goodness, it's a little bit chilly out here.
Freddie,
I'm trying to get those high knees going, Richo.
Hey, the good news is, though, the rain has sort of slowed down a little bit.
That is optimistic, but
Sure.
we have had a fair bit of rain this morning than what was anticipated. So we did start on a soft 5. Speaking to Michael Wood, the track manager, we're out of 6 at the moment. What are you doing?
I think we're going to be on a 7 really, really quickly, and we are here.
I'll tell you something, Richo, you're not going to get a job as a weatherman.
You're right. I got that 100% wrong. Now, someone tells me it's not going to rain on Saturday, but I'm ignoring that. Yuck. And I reckon the Hong Kong punters were enjoying the Moreira versus Purton show. It wasn't at Sha Tin. It was at Randwick, if you don't mind. Here's Joe winning the ATC Sires on a son of Dundeel. Gee, how do they beat him in the Champagne, Shane? They just thrashed him.
Mate, I didn't watch his runs before that because I can't watch everything. And I went back and watched his replays, and I would have backed this horse for sure. His run two starts ago was as good as Cylinder when he got beat 3 lengths.
Yep.
Here's another one. Someone rang me after the first race and said, how's the track? And I said, the fence. Don't get off the fence. Stay on the fence. I said, it's a fair track. They'll be winning anywhere, but they'll go wide. But the fence is the best place, and that's how it played. You could win anywhere. Here's Zach winning the Doncaster on Mr. Brightside. David's 2 sons train it, of course, David Hayes, and he's done an amazing job. Another thing is, Richo, did you notice all those big race winners where they're from?
Well, they were all from New Zealand.
That's right. The Doncaster winner raced in New Zealand. The what else? The Derby winner. The Derby winner was bred in New Zealand. And what was that? The famous sprinter who they say good sprinters don't come from New Zealand, the TJ Smith. I wish. Another New Zealand horse who raced in New Zealand. So
are you pretending you're a New Zealander now? If you love it so much, get over there.
What about the sales that are just selling? They go and buy all these $1 million horses every 2 minutes at the sales, and they're coming over from New Zealand. What about the 3-year-old filly? The best 3-year-old filly in Australasia is a New Zealander. That's for sure. She would have won the Elks by 5 lengths if she was in it this week.
Okay, in all seriousness, Shane, why do you think that is? I mean, I think what do they breed? About 3,500 horses a year, compared to we'd have 4 or 5 times that, I'd imagine, in Australia. So why is it?
I don't know. Look, we've always produced outstanding horses for years and years, whether you go back to the 80s and Bone Crusher and Waverley Star coming over, but then you go back to the 70s and we had a horse who I used to ride track work and gallop it when I was 10 years old, called Chivalry. He won a Tancred Stakes. He ran second in the Cox Plate to Dulcify, who was a champion. He won a lot over here, Chivalry. So you've always had them. Upik won a Sydney Cup, who I was associated with in 76 as a kid. So, look, I don't know what it is, whether it's the grass or whatever, but we do produce pretty good horses in New Zealand. There's no risk about that, Clint.
You certainly do, Shane. And the other worrying sign, and I did put something out on socials last week regarding a lot of the slipper winners. 8 of the last 10 haven't won another race thereafter, and a lot of our breeding centres around those 2-year-olds, etc. But I think John Massara has actually come out during the week and mentioned about trying to tap into some of the Japanese bloodlines. But when you look at the overall picture, even the staying races up to 1.25 miles, they're not staying races, they're just middle distance races. And you see all the horses that have figured in the finish, Shane. 5 of the first 6 in all these races, they're either from New Zealand or they're brought in from the UK or Europe.
Absolutely, because we're breeding for speed.
Yeah, totally breeding, which is fine, but then you're going to lack at the top end. And
of course,
what might happen this year, Shane, as well in the championships, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but you've got all this international competition coming. They're only going to be incentivized even more with our great prize money to come even more so, and they might be taking the benefits of it. That's sort of was my point.
Yeah, that's a very good point. In fact, during the week, I've just been up at the Australian Inglis Easter yearling sales, and the buying was incredible. We had 26 lots that was sold for over $1 million. Who said that the economy is struggling at the moment? Hong Kong was very, very prevalent. There's no doubting that. Hong Kong Jockey Club, Jamie Richards, Ricky Yu. There's a lot of purchasers there that purchase some nice types.
Definitely. And I want to highlight one from the Hong Kong Jockey Club. And they've really put out and bought a very nice individual as far as our Group 1 Goldmine stats are concerned. And this is obviously a really interesting buy for me. Deepfield, which is extremely popular in Hong Kong with the number of horses that go there, and the Soloist. And you can just see that top line there. So this might be one if you're in Hong Kong down the track, once they get through preparing the horse at the sale, etc., that you could be well interested in. But, you know, what did they pay? 650,000 Australian. I think they paid 900,000 for a So You Think as well.
Yeah.
Who's by Andressa as well. But just a little bit of Group 1 Goldmine stuff there to, I think, encourage those viewers to show up in Hong Kong if they're looking down the track.
And an I Am Invincible as well, they paid 580,000 for, so they'll be prepped up and then presented at the international sale up in Hong Kong. All right, let's find some future winners. Sweet in defeat.
They're off, and Sugar Sugar missed the start by 4 lengths. Then Dublin Star, Sugar Sugar fast, Buck Smart leader. Oversubscribed, lunges at the post, missed. Sugar Sugar, that's a sweet win for Alfie Chan.
Our Black Booker segment here on the Triple Trio is called Sweet in Defeat. Hutch, who jumps into the fire?
A little bit cautious about the weekend just in terms of that wet track and what I prefaced earlier in the show. But I think there's 2 horses that we can follow irrespective of that. And they both come out of one race. There was a debutant from the John Size yard. Now, Zach Purton was riding, so immediately was sort of catching the eye. You got to watch out when the 2 chaps team up. And that horse was called Simply Hedge, first race start. And the horse that was sensationally backed was called Flamingo Trillion. Gee, they came for this horse in spades late in the betting. It really started very short. I just feel that both of these horses will be winning soon. It wasn't a bulk track, but it was certainly rain affected. But look, Flamingo Trillion, who's been highlighted there out of the stalls, is running in about 6th position in those pale blue colours. And Simply Hedge was last. And there's another look at it. Keeping an eye in particular in Flamingo Trillion. Shane, he just was took a while to wind up here, and the horse to his outside managed just to hold his spot. Then it got very awkward for Karis Teaton.
Yeah, he just wants 1,400, Clint. There's no risk about that. They come from a long way back in this, so the leaders went a bit fast. He's a nice horse, but he definitely wants some home. You see him getting checked there, and of course the other one's getting home down the outside. He actually went a lot better in the race than he did in his trials, although it was like a John Sires trials when he was trialling, so it was hard to get a gauge on him. But he looks a very nice horse.
Shane, when you're reviewing that and you see a horse get checked like that, how do you assess where they would have finished in the run through your experience in terms of when you see, I think he would have won, I think he, a bonus in this many lengths? How do you go about, is it a case-by-case basis? Obviously, it would be to an extent, but how do you normally assess a horse like that where he's been beaten at margin and where he would have finished given how he was travelling at that point?
Good question. It's very hard for me to teach anyone because I just see things and I see things a lot differently. So every horse is different. And I think he would have run in the first 3, that horse. Whether he wins or not, I'd have to go back over and watch it a few times. And because it's so early in the week, I haven't done that yet. But watching the race, I thought he was going to run in the first 3. But to win was debatable. But then you go, well, if he's going to run in the first 3 and the margin's half a length or a neck between first and third, he may have won. So every race is different, Clint, as you know. But I'm not looking at times when horses are unlucky.
Okay. And you're also looking at a couple of factors. When there is that severe interference, this is to both of you, are you looking for then, so often the jockey will sit up then, and you're looking for horses to make ground under their own steam without aggressive riding? And do you also both look at past the post and what the horse does then?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first before Shane. I like to see them if they pick themselves up usually after that severe interference and in at the line, that's always a good lead. And obviously through the line, like you said, but there's a lot of guesswork. And I've learned most of my, how I would assess that sort of situation more so from talking to jockeys post-race and just a lot of different jockeys. And then you get used to what their feedback is in terms of I would have, finished right there or I would have won. Because sometimes it's surprising. A jockey will get off a horse and say, I would have won this race. And you look at it and think, gee, there wasn't much there.
Yeah.
But it just helps along the process. And it is subjective, Shane, but that's how I've learnt. And I suppose I'll let you have your go now.
No, that's true. Jockeys do know, although I don't talk to jockeys. But when I was riding, I'd hop off a horse and it'd get beat 5-10 lengths and I'd say this will win next start. I just knew because of circumstances of the race. While I'm watching the race, I'm watching for mainly bad rides, because a lot of people can't pick up what bad rides are in a race because they haven't ridden and they don't know. They're just going on what they see. But I can pick up things that I know they shouldn't have done, but normal people will think they've done nothing wrong. And that helps me a lot, and I see it regularly.
That's Shane's edge.
And that's what we love about him. One of the many things we love about him. In fact, he's got his own segment, the Golden Boy, up next.
They sweep for home now. Beander-Cross has come very wide. Beander-Cross answering the urgings of Shane Dye. Mannerism coming at him. Mannerism has got it.
Daring tactics by Shane Dye. He's got Octagonal in full flight on the corner. Bold tactics by Shane Dye are going to pay off, and he pinches the Chipping Norton.
The segment where the Golden Boy shines, genius or slaughter. Shane, let's start with the positives. Who caught your eye?
There were a couple. We've only got one meeting to go, but Wonder Years, Harry Bentley, this was a very good ride. This horse always gets back along last and can't keep up, and you need to ride him the whole way. And what he did was, when he got into the back, when the pace really slowed, he just took off at the right time. And he got around them so easy, which is unusual for him. So here he saved ground. He's back last, but you watch the leaders back it off here, and they start to get bunched, and he says, I'm going. And the good thing was, when he went, he committed. He didn't pull up and sit second. He just said, I'm going to the front. And that's what won the race. So that was a very good ride on a very hard horse to ride. And I think I gave it to Karis Teton a few starts ago one day, and he kept going. The second horse is racing really well in this, Clint. Carloon Great. He's going really well. He's another horse that'll win soon, but he rode this really well, Clint.
He did ride it really well.
And we love initiative, don't we?
We love initiative, but he's that kind of horse that needs that sort of race shape, probably, where they go quick and then they back off. Shane, I know you haven't given a slaughter this week, but I suppose you could give it to a few of them that were up on the speed in that race and going that slow, that they allowed Harry to make that move.
Yeah.
Why were they going so slow?
Well, people sometimes don't like to lead, and they try and back the pace off because they think they're saving their horse to sprint home. But it's actually the worst thing you can do on the leader. You know, Felix Coetzee was always good in front in Hong Kong because he never went fast, but he never went slow. And you couldn't attack him and get up and around because he was just going fast enough that you couldn't do it. But some of these jocks or kids, they don't quite get the pace right, and they back it off too much. And that's not the right thing to do. And you can get caught napping, and that's what I used to do in races. Clint, do you realise I was the first jockey to do that in Hong Kong? I'm told that by punting teams. I used to do that a lot in Hong Kong, and then people copied because it just made sense. When the pace comes out, you just whip up and around, and the race is over.
Yeah, it didn't happen too often. I remember Tony Cruz did it once back in the day, won by 6. I think it might have been his last ride. I reckon a few of them just let him go too. But.
Yeah. So Tony, you've earned this one. You've earned this.
He stood up for the crowd at the end of that one. So I think the horse was called Super Team or something along those. Of course, I'm only joking, but no, it was a good win by Tony. But it didn't happen all that often. No, I mean that said, a lot of international riders came over, and generally in Hong Kong you got good speed. But it's also, I suppose, Shane, the knowledge to be able to know when to go and judge that pace. And that, for me, is what separates a lot of jockeys. You see some jockeys take off and you think, why is this jockey taking off at this point of the race? They're already gone too hard. So it's the ones that know the tempo rather than just the move.
That's so true. 100%. It's knowing the pace, Clint. And if you know pace, you know when to do it. And I see it at Happy Valley, and they're going along down the back and they still want to take off. And I just go, that's a no-no. We've got another good ride here too, boys, and he's just flying, Matthew Chadwick. This is Brave Dreams. I end up on him. He was 8.50, which was ridiculous. He drew gate 10. You see him here. But the old Matthew would have dug that horse out of the gates and he would have stayed off the fence. And through listening to the show and just taking a little bit of advice on, he's just riding so well. He stayed on the fence. He never left the fence. And he gave this just the best ride ever. He's just a different jockey the past, I reckon, 18 months. And he's just getting better and better now. And as a kid, I had this jock, a superstar, but he was never taught to ride properly as a kid. He's now starting to learn how to ride properly for the first time in his career. and he's only going to get better rides, and he's not getting great rides, and he's winning on things 10, 12, 15 to 1. And once the better rides come, oh my God, he's going to be up there.
That was a very Shane Dye-esque ride.
Wasn't it
It
just?
really was. He just kept waiting, and got there late, popped up the inside. I reckon this, Shane, I agree with everything you said. And I know you're saying the last 12 to 18 months, which he has improved. I reckon he's going even better in the last 2 or 3 months. He's really elevated like another level. He's ridden some terrific races.
Hey, that vision is brilliant. I don't know if we can roll it again towards the end. But, Shane, it was interesting you say waiting. I reckon the key to this, Shane, which you've identified brilliantly, is he's actually able to keep the momentum of the horse going, even though he's in tight room. He just finds these tiny little gaps in the straight where he just keeps the horse's momentum. It was brilliant.
Well, he was just waiting for Zach to barge out and go through, which he did. But the key to riding this type of race is being a bit further back than a bit closer, because you know they're always going to open up at the 200. Runs always come at the 200. They won't at the 300, so it's just a matter of being 2 or 3 lengths further back. And what Matthew's doing is I gave him a pay and a bad ride, about 6 weeks ago, I think, Clint, on a horse of Chris So's at Happy Valley. He didn't think in the race. It was he should have won for sure. It was outside the leader. He should have gone
exceptional,
to the front,
nice.
and he let something go. And I just explained, I don't want to know. I'm just trying to help him. And I think he's taking it on board, and he's starting to think in races, because he really is thinking in racing. And it's not about speed. You don't have to dig every horse up there in a race and go too fast. You can ride every horse differently, and he's going really well. It's great to see.
What did you make, Shane, in that race? Wonder Kit was one of the main plays for us on the day as well. And I thought he got a lovely ride. He had his chance, and I'm willing to potentially forgive him for the ground. I'm not sure he was completely suited, but on face value, he seemed to have every chance.
Well, he had every chance. He was 4th one off, come 3 deep in the straight, and he was probably a little bit disappointing. The other race that was very similar to that, there were 2 races, and we covered them last week. And I think I said in both of them, there's 2 chances in both. The other one was Golden Auntie and the red hot favourite.
Choo Chow Spirit.
Choo Chow Spirit. He was $1.50, which was too short. Well, he looked disappointing, didn't he, Clint?
You couldn't have, if at the 200 metre mark, he was $1.05.
I couldn't have had enough on him.
Okay, so here's my take. I backed Golden Auntie for one reason, right? And this is not criticising Sack in any way, right? That horse gets back near last, its first 2 starts and runs on, doesn't it, Clint?
It does.
Okay. So with Zach on it, and it's $1.50, I said to myself, he'll go forward on this, right? And he was taken out of his comfort zone. Now, I know when you get the sectional times early, it may not be. He could have been like last in some other races, but I don't think like that when it comes to that. He was up too close. He's better off ridden back. Now, would he have won or not? I don't know. I'm not saying he was, but I gambled in that race because I thought if he goes forward on this horse, he'll be taken out of his comfort zone, and he'll get the right ride from Zach up there every chance, $1.50 like he does, but he may not finish the race off like he can. And that's what happened. So I got lucky that race with Golden Auntie.
Well, and that's what they did with Golden Auntie the start before. We said he led. And he had to sit this time around, and it proved important. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that horse now, Shane. I don't know whether it was that. I think the tempo wasn't strong. I think he was pretty disappointing. Maybe you're right. Maybe having him that bit closer. Maybe it was the ground.
Well, you mentioned to me last week about Golden Auntie how disappointing he was when he led on times. He got a soft lead. And I actually said to you, it wasn't D'Souza's fault. He didn't go too fast. And yes, he might have had every chance. But some horses can't do that and are not leaders. And I said, that horse there gets back a bit, and all of a sudden he's led and it's not used to it, right? So it didn't finish the race off. He'll be better taking a sit. It's the same with Choo Chow, whatever it was. I forget its name that Zach rode. He wasn't used to going forward, right? He's a better horse back. Now, whether he would have won, I'm not saying he would have won or not, right? But I think next start, if they ride him back again like he was his first 2 starts, you'll see a horse getting home. Zach gave him every chance like he does. He puts him 3rd, 4th, out of trouble when they're odds on. But he may not want to be ridden like that.
But I love it. I love his passion. Moving on now to Global Racing. Well, with global racing, we've got a lot to reflect on, and we can reflect on it through the lens of the World Pool, and stats are now available to us in regards to how the turnover has been in regards to the World Pool. Hutch, and by gee, there's been 5 World Pool meetings and 70% increase on turnover into 2023.
Yeah, and it's going to keep going up, I think, as it gets more traction. And obviously it's been a big news in terms of turnover and betting and wagering in Australia. That's another matter. We'll talk about that some other time. But it's great to see if you're going to have a play in some of these races, and there's a lot of them covered through the year by the World Pool. It's a fantastic option.
Liquidity in the market is going to be the big factor. It's going to be the factor that everyone's going to start to really centre in on. And then where do we go? So we've already seen the World Cup being ultra popular, and other World Pool meetings for the second quarter of the year. We've got Guineas Day in Newmarket coming up in May. We've got the Lock-in Stakes. Then we've got Derby Day, King's Stand Stakes Day at Royal Ascot.
I'm hearing someone's telling me that you might be a chance of being over in England during some of this time.
Well,
is that a chance?
Jeeves.
Have you ordered the top hat?
Oh, gee, it's a very strange setup of the top hat. So Prince of Wales, the Stakes, the Gold Cup Day, Commonwealth Cup, Platinum Jubilee. We've got it all with the World Pool. And yes, well, I'm planning on holidaying over in that part of the world, so I might just zip in. And see one of the 5, maybe 6 Australian horses that'll be racing there. It'd be great to have some Hong Kong horses there as well, Japanese horses, and I've got a little share in a horse that's going to be targeting.
Congratulations, Shane. Richo had a winner during the week as well with Charlie Fellows. And
Doncaster.
He left us all out, but that's to be expected. But it won by about 10.
Wow. So now he's a global owner.
Well, Shane, it's interesting how much of an effect you have in my life. I ring the trainer. It's $9 into 4. It salutes. His name is Gorak in one of those low-grade benchmark races. And I said, why did the jockey win by 5? Shane's been telling me you've only just got to win. His rating's going to go through the roof. He said, we'll back him up and have another run before they rehab.
They can do that in England, yeah.
That's great. Well, how'd you get into that horse, Richo?
Just through a friend. I'm friends with Charlie Fellows, and he bought it as a tried horse and said, mate, can you and your mates get involved? So there's 39 Australians involved, and we're racing over in the UK for a ribbon. It's great. Let's have some star power with the one and only Hugh Bowman. Well, our star power guest is a superstar of world racing, over 100 Group 1s in his exceptional career. He is the one and only Hugh Bowman. And Hughie, thanks so much for your time, mate. And we chat to you in Sydney. You've had a little week to get the family and get the house in order, and then back to Hong Kong, no doubt, for Sunday. How have you enjoyed your week in Sydney?
It's not great reception here, Richo, but yeah, thank you for having me on the show. It's great to be back home for a short period of time, and it was great to be involved in the championships last Saturday, and looking forward to a few nice rides this weekend before heading back to Hong Kong.
Oh, we can hear you loud and clear, mate, so hopefully you can hear us. Do you feel like you've fully settled into Hong Kong now?
Yeah, I do, Richo. I mean, it's taken a little bit of time because obviously Christine and the girls have come over, so getting them settled into school and getting our living arrangements sort of to a more of a long-term arrangement. So we've signed to the end of the season, the current Hong Kong racing season. So there's every chance, given the opportunity, we might stay beyond that. So that'll obviously be subject to a contract agreement with the Hong Kong Jockey Club. But no, things are going really well. And so personally, it's taken a little bit of it's been a huge lifestyle change for us. But from a professional point of view, I've just thoroughly enjoyed the riding, the change of environment. I think it's been healthy for me. And, riding twice a week has been great for the body. So hopefully the momentum can continue for the remainder of the season.
Well, Hugh, you mentioned that, and congratulations on your season thus far. It's been incredible. You've ridden so many winners in a short space of time. How do you feel you're riding?
I'm feeling riding pretty well, I guess. I mean, look, I'm getting great opportunities over there. I've had a really good support base from a wide range of trainers in Hong Kong. So that's, ultimately that's so important, of course. But look, I just feel a bit reinvigorated. It's a new challenge for me, and I've tried to take it with both hands. And like I said, I'm just enjoying my riding as much as I have for quite some time, and the results are showing.
And we can see that, mate. We can see that the way you're riding, but also have you got it just right that you can now, through the support of the Hong Kong Jockey Club, just jettison into Australia for the big Group 1 days? That gives you a bit of energy as well.
Well, obviously, as like any sportsman, your ambitions to compete at the highest level, no matter where that is. So, look, Hong Kong's a very central part of the world, so it certainly opens up some opportunities to travel and ride in other jurisdictions. But I really have been focusing on just trying to cement my place in Hong Kong and get to know the system and the horses and it's a huge change from what I'm used to here in Sydney. So I guess it's a bit of a rebuilding platform for me, and it's a new challenge, and it's a new challenge for my family and our lifestyle. So there's a lot that comes with it. But like I said, from a professional point of view, I've really enjoyed the change, and I do miss home. I miss riding, and working with all the great people that I work with here at home. But I can only be in one place at a time. But it's a good fit for myself and my family at my stage of my career and my life. So we're just trying to, capitalise on the opportunity that we've been given.
Hughie, in Australia, everyone has, first of all, congratulations, you're flying. I say that regularly. You can't be going any better, mate. You just killed it. You're one of the best I've seen go to Hong Kong from Australia. Most Australian jockeys get lost. You have not got lost at all. You just have, it's just like how do you put it, water off a duck's back. And you're going to continue to have success. There's no risk about that. I want to know how in Australia you've always had a manager who does everything for you. So you just turn up to the races and ride. Now, in Hong Kong, you can't have a manager. You've got to do everything yourself. How have you gone about that and cope with having to do your own rides?
Well, I'm learning now, Shane, but, with the initial contract that I signed, I was offered someone who was employed by the club to assist me in that area. And so initially I did have someone to help me, and I'm still getting a little bit of help, but as time goes on, I'm taking that role on more myself. And the reality is, because you've got a pool of horses, a pool of trainers, and a pool of it's a much more insular environment than what we'd be accustomed to here in Australia. So, it's much more doable. And although the racing is only twice a week, and I mentioned that before, and it's, I'm finding that's much better on my body, and, I feel much fresher and more alert going to the races. On the other side of the coin, you do have to be more aware of, liaising with the trainers and owners to a degree, more so than you would here in Australia. So the environment is different. And, like I said, I've really made it my mission to focus on that platform and trying to understand it and learn about the systems that are in place. And, it is doable, but it is an adjustment of my business model, I suppose, if one of a better word.
And how's your weight been in Hong Kong compared to Australia? Because it does change with a lot of jockeys.
Yeah, I felt when I got there, I found I was doing sort of 120. So I set 124, so 56 kilos is my minimum weight, which is what I ride here in Australia. I'm doing that comfortably, but I'm not riding that weight as regularly in Hong Kong as I would here in Australia. So, I'm finding that's beneficial, but I've also got to be mindful not to let it creep up so that, that I don't ultimately struggle to ride that weight. So it's a bit of a fine balance, like it always is. The weights are, all in my entire career, I've found it the most difficult part of what we do as a jockey. Well, I certainly have, and it's something that I have to continue to focus on very closely in Hong Kong too. But we have just gone through winter, and I was only saying to Christine the other day, we're a pair of us are looking forward to going into a summer. even if it is in Hong Kong, because we haven't had a summer for some time because we went over to Hong Kong in November.
Huey, you've been having that many winners, and of course, as I know, when you have a lot of winners, you get invited to a lot of dinner celebration parties, which you've got to go to. How have you coped going to them all with your weight and watching what you eat?
Yeah, well, I'm not a big eater anyway, really, to be honest, but I do have to manage it. And what I try and do with I try and organise the dinners if I can for a Thursday or a Monday night to give myself time. But look, it's like, really it's no different to here. I've got to manage it just as closely, but I've got a lot more time to exercise in between. But it's just managing your fluid intake really more than anything. That's what I find, and make sure that I keep fit and try and avoid the salt and sugar like always. It's the same platform, but it's just, if I manage it well, then life's easy. And if I start to cheat a little bit or train a bit less, then it becomes harder.
Hugh, we won't keep you much longer. Richo's just going to touch on the championships in a moment. But I suppose just the final bit about Hong Kong, I suppose the main thing with you up there at the moment, you've had a lot of success. You've had the winners. You're getting the support. The next step, the next natural progression, I would suppose, would be just to get one of those, top line horses. That's probably what you'd be looking to try and establish yourself with now.
Yes, Hutchi. I mean, look, that's what inspires us all as riders, whether it be in Hong Kong or here in Australia or wherever in the world. If you're riding the best jockeys are on the best horses. So if you've got a good horse, your name's up there, and you get, with a good horse is good for business. You get other opportunities with that confidence and that momentum. So it would be great to come across a top line horse, and I'd like to think it's only a matter of time, but you got to be in the right spot at the right time. And for the moment, that's not really my focus. If that comes along and happens, it happens. But I just want to go about my business week in, week out, and do the best I can with the opportunities that I've got. And I seem to be doing that, and my focus is to continue doing that. And if and when that good horse comes along, or top line horse, well, I'll be there to take it with both hands.
It's fair to say he's had his fair share of top line horses.
Why, Richo? What's he ridden?
Oh, I don't know. There's some girl that comes to mind when I think about the championships. That
and did he ride her okay?
He knew what was underneath him, I reckon, now and then. Hey, Huey, how do you look?
I just did what Shane did. I just went round the outside fence all the time.
Be careful, Huey, because I always give you a rap on her. You handled her so well. It was a credit to you the way you rode her. You just got to ride all the time. You didn't overtax her early in a preparation, and mate, what was it, 26 or 34 wins in a row? So what can you say? You're just a genius on it.
No, thank you. It was, an amazing journey, and we're all very proud of what she did for all of us, and I'm glad I'm proud of what I was able to do for her, but I couldn't have done it without the exceptional talent that she was, and it's there for everyone to see in all the numbers.
And of course, Richo, it was a final race in the race that is on the weekend. Maybe we can touch on that with Huey as well.
Yeah, the Queen Elizabeth. That was a moment. It was interesting. We're reflecting on it, building up for the Sevens coverage on Saturday, Hugh, and we know what a fan Bruce McAvaney, who is the chief of our team, was of her. And I think he sums it up best with saying Randwick's had some incredible moments, but that day was a day that we will never, ever, ever forget.
Yeah, it certainly was, Richo. Well, I'll certainly never forget it. But, and it's interesting that you asked. I mean, it's obvious that you asked, but we've just recently done or been filming a documentary on Winx and her career and her life, and, for the Australian Archives of, not racing, but the National Archives of Australia. And they touched on, me going and visiting her at her current location. And, I think that day was, that for me, that was the day that I said goodbye to Winx. That was the day that, my partnership and association with her, I said goodbye. And when Chris and I and Winx stood in front of the Randwick crowd after the race, it's a very poignant moment in my life and my career. And, I think, it was a fitting way for me to, let Winks go on to the next phase of her journey. And like I said before, I'm very proud of what I was able to achieve with her and what she did for me as a person and an athlete and a jockey. So very, very special, and that day will be remembered, like you said, rightly by many for forevermore.
Yeah, the greatest moment ever at Randwick. I think that goes without any discussion whatsoever. Looking forward to this week, mate. Is there a standout amongst your rides during the championships? And the key ones being Arts, which you've identified as your best. You're on a former Oaks winner who likes wet ground in the Queen Elizabeth, but by gee, she's got some task, hasn't she, up against what everyone's considering a match race between Animo and Dubai Honour.
Yes, and it's going to be good to be a part of it. I think Dubai Honour really put the writing on the wall, and I think given the rain-affected conditions expected, should play into his favour. But look, Animo, I've got to hand it to him. He's just he's an outstanding horse. I love watching him race, and he deserves all the accolades he gets. And I think it's a credit. I think it's a credit to it's a credit to James Cummings in how he's managed the horse, but it's a credit to the Godolphin team. The fact, I just love the fact that they've raced him on. I really do. I think it's just great for our sport to see these horses race on, see these top colts race on as mature horses. We don't see it so often anymore with the way things are. So it's great to see him come back as a 5-year-old and perform at the level he has. I think it's just great.
Yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? That's brilliant, mate. We're very conscious of technology. We'll just simply say thanks so much for your time. Good luck for Saturday. Brilliant to have you back in Hong Kong on Sunday, and good luck for the rest of the season, mate. You've had a great season. Finish it off in style.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Hugh Bowman as our special guest, part of the Star Power on the Triple Trip. Well, Sunday is for Hong Kong racing. We're racing at Sha Tin, Group 2 racing in Hutch. We start with the Sprint Cup. Group 2 and the usual suspects are there going toe-to-toe.
That's the case more often than not. And I suppose there's a little bit more interest in this race with Cordyceps 6 coming sort of back, and we've got Courier Wonder racing well. Wellington will be bidding to turn the tables, but obviously Lucky Sweynesse is going to be very short price favourite, and so he should be. He's back from the 1400, but that's not a major issue. Not a major issue. Shane coming back from the 14 to the 12, and it'll just be a nice tick over run, I suppose. This race going forward to the main event, the Chairman Sprint Prize, which is next month on QE2 Cup Day.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we haven't got the barriers yet because we had to do the show early because the fields don't come out till later. But I would think, looking at this, WizKid will lead, you would think, wouldn't you?
Yep.
And he'll go along, and Lucky Schwez will just sit outside of him, depending on what barrier he's got. He looks the winner, Clint. He's too good for them. He's the best sprinter. Unless something goes wrong, they're not going to beat him.
Interesting. Looking forward to that international sprint, which, he'll be front and centre. Is any news as to who is going to come from around the world? I know Greg Carpenter from the Hong Kong Jockey Club has been really active trying to recruit sprinters.
Well, I believe that the plan was, we mentioned Lofty Strike some time ago, and the plan was if it was wet in Sydney, they weren't going to run. Unfortunately, that didn't transpire. It was very wet, and he did run.
He actually ran well, considering he didn't handle the ground.
At all. But I think those plans are off the table now. I'm not sure what the progress will be with him, but it has thwarted that plan, which is a shame because I think it would have been a great race for him, if not others. There is some other news with internationals. I think the Astrologist might be going to Royal Ascot as well. So I think we'll see more Aussies travel, but unfortunately in this instance, I don't think it'll happen. But
Aegon's going to be travelling to Hong Kong for the mile. So that's good news from a New Zealand / Australian point of view. But back to this race.
I mean, Lucky Sweynesse, he's going to look. Shane, what price do you think he'll be? I mean, provided he draws well and all the rest of it, you'd imagine he'll be $1. I mean, they get very short in Hong Kong when they get a fan favourite like he is. He's going to be somewhere between $1.10 and $1.20, I suppose.
I'd say $1.30, $1.40, because of Wellington's still in there. You don't want him drawing well. You want him drawing wide, Clint, so he can just take his time and come across and sit outside of WizKid. But he's going to be short. And mind you, the market's been getting it wrong all season. I keep saying that, but I don't think this time they're going to get it wrong.
No. Yeah. And they got it right really in the international sprint, like you said, Richo, but he was unlucky. But I'll tell you the other thing that I did note out of that race we just watched, Shane, as well, with Courier Wonder, he ran well over 1,400 metres. I think that that's an option for him going forward. I'm not sure he's just a sprinter. I think 14.6, I know there's obviously great depth in those mile races, but he might be able to pick off one of those 1,400 metre runs. It was a real sprint home the other day, and I thought both Wellington and Courier Wonder were okay, but in particular Courier Wonder, who's not quite, he's not good enough probably at the 12 or the 16, but it might give them an option anyway.
He's
going
racing
forward.
well, Clint Courier Wonder. He's done nothing wrong. Wellington's going all right, but unfortunately you're just running into a horse who's a bit better than them all and who is getting stronger with every run. And I've got no doubt, Lucky Schwers, if they want to test him over a mile, he'll run a mile. I've always said that from day one. And he could be suited at a mile.
Yeah, I'd love to see Lucky Sweynesse head to Royal Ascot. We've seen Hong Kong do it in the past, haven't they? To great success. So you never know.
You never know.
You never know. There's a lot of prize money playing in Hong Kong, no doubting that. What about the Chairman's Trophy 1,600 metre Group 2?
Another race where there'll be a very short price favourite with California Spangle, defeated, of course, by Lucky Sweynesse, but now he gets back up to the mile, and in conjunction with all of that, there's not going to be much pressure on him, so Zach will be able to rate him how he wants. Healthy Happy is in the race. He'll roll forward. Money Catcher's an interesting one. He's been competing, Shane, in a lot of the good races, Money Catcher, over a bit more of a distance. And now he comes back to 1,600 metres. But I thought he could run okay. But California Spangle, once again, is gonna dictate the speed of the race. And if he holds his form for the majority of the season, he'll be hard to beat. And, of course, this replay here that we're looking at, Shane, is when Hugh Bowman went forward in the Hong Kong, obviously the mile back in December when Hugh made that move on Beauty Joy and let him roll. And he was second best on that. Beauty Joy ended up fading, but be hoping that he can conserve his energy a little bit better for the weekend.
Well, that's why California Spangle won this race. The pace went into it at the right time when it had to. If Huey hadn't have done that, Golden 60 wins this race for sure, 100%, because he just put him too far back away from California Spangle, Golden 60. Clint, I've got to disagree with you a little bit here. There is pace in this race. If they want to go on Money Catcher, they can. If they want to go on Healthy Happy, he can. Healthy Happy can lead easy in a 14, easy. So, and the thing you got to remember is they're not trained by Tony. So Tony's got Canyon Star looking at this in it. He could lead if he jumps, because sometimes now he's missing the start. But Tony will tell him not to lead, and he'll be telling Beauty Joy to sit off. So you got to worry about Healthy Happy and Money Catcher, what they're going to do. But that's not going to affect California Spangle. Either the lead or take a sit, and he should be winning this, Clint. He's a different class to these horses, mate.
And what about Running Glory's biggest test to date, Shane, for Running Glory? Is a horse that just sits out the back, does no work. He's got a good turn of foot, and probably at the conditions of the race, the handicap, the way it's set up with that penalty with Group 1 winners carrying 2.5 kilos more, he's sort of out of the handicap a little bit by about 11 points, but he's clearly a horse that's still on the rise. I'm not sure the miles his real go, but how did you see him performing in this race?
I don't see him in the same class as the other horse, California Spangle. He's out of the ratings, which is correct. He'll get back and he'll run on. He's had a couple of nice run races where they've gone along and Huey won on him or rode him when he stuck to the inside and come through. But I can't see him beating the other horse, California Spangle. California Spangle always seems to find one that can beat him, but in saying that, it is normally Golden 60. Or Lucky Schwers, who are the best. The best three horses in Hong Kong are California Spangle. He's the fourth best horse. The Golden 60, Lucky Schwers, Romantic Warrior, and then California Spangle. And that's what's been beating him, the best horses.
But to be fair, all four of them are outstanding.
Yeah,
so if California Spangle's fourth,
and that's no knock on California Spangle, but he's just not quite as good as the others.
No, he's not. But he doesn't. I find he doesn't quite have that turn of foot that all of those have. He can continue to put good sectionals together, but that's his asset probably.
That's right.
Maintaining that high level cruising speed. And not sure he's done that all that often lately, but doesn't matter how they ride him here, he'll be too good for them.
We moved to a Class 2 over 1,400 metres, and just looking at the entries here, Packing Treadmill's one of the entries, and Circuit Stellar, Red Line for John Size as well.
This is a good race, and I'm pretty keen on one here, and I think the market will be right around them as well. And last start winner is Red Line, Richo, who was pretty impressive. I think there's a couple of things to note with the performance of Red Line when he did win last start, and we've been with him a bit this season with Hutchi and RS. Of course, he only beat a horse by the name of Choo Chow Spirit, which hasn't exactly franked the form, but it shows that the market liked that race, I suppose, in some respect. It did rate pretty well. It was a day when you're always, I think 6 of the 9 winners were on the rail. He wasn't one of those, and a lot of the horses were prominent in the run, but he put together a very good performance. He carried 135 pounds. He dropped 16 pounds, or about 7 or 8 kilos for this race. The rising grade's actually, I think, going to be a plus for him.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine he'll be pretty tough to beat. But there is one in the race, Shane, that I think, dependent on barrier draws, will give him something to think about in Packing Treadmill, who's been also in very good form through the season. This was Hugh Bowman on him at his last start. I said on the day that this was a high-rating race for me with Victor the winner. But Packing Treadmill, he's just honest and tough, Shane. He just continues to turn up.
Yeah, he never goes bad. He's a nice horse, although earlier on he had a bad run there for one run, I think it was. This horse is going to be hard to beat again if he gets a soft lead. The only problem is True Legends in the race, and I don't know who's riding it yet, and if a kid's riding it and got the weight off, he might tell him to go to the front, so he won't get a soft lead. Circuit Stellar, if that's the case, but he's racing very well. The second horse comes in at the weights a lot better now. Circuit, the Golden Fantastic Treasure, I should say, who ran second. He's not the worst, Clint. It's very hard for me to say too much when I don't know who's riding them, so I haven't got their kids on them and taking. See, Circuit Stellar, Tony could put a kid on to take the 7 pounds off him. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's a very important point as well, because I think Zach's been a big factor in that horse's success. We were on him early in the season when Circuit Stellar, when unfortunately
100% Clint he has been. As two starts, he's just jumped, put him out of trouble, led on him, and he's been too good.
Very much so.
Of course, we're having to record this show a little earlier because we've got racing on Thursday night, and also with Good Friday in Australia. We're nice and early here, so we're doing all of our discussion off entries. I feel it's hard to even find in advance. I mean, Hutchie's Honkers, of course, with the full assessment is what you need to subscribe to, and you'll be able to get all the form. Is there anything at the moment that either of you would say, hey, I'm really keen just looking at the entries to have a little play?
Yeah, there's another race actually, and it's down the straight, Shane, and it'll be a good betting race because I think we've got a horse by the name of We Are Hero, who Hughes had a great association with through the season, who's trialled well recently down the straight. He's run well. And California Deeply is a horse that I've been following at Happy Valley, who's been running some unbelievable closing sectionals. And now Tony's keeping him at the distance.
Yeah.
He was the one I asked Tony to go to 1,200 with. He didn't listen to me. He said, no, I'm putting him over 1,000, but I'll put him at Sha-Tin.
Yeah.
But I think just that straight line, as we know, rather than the bend at the Valley where he's sort of detached, it'll give him that opportunity probably to be a little bit closer. So I'm hoping that I'll be on California Deeply. I'll be interested to see who rides him, but it'll be a good race between him and We Are Hero. But Red Line will be one of my main plays on the day, and we look forward to seeing those other two feature events. But basically, you're going to have to, check out the website, go to www.hutchieshonkers.com and see what we like.
And Shane, off the entries, when you started to analyse them, is there anything that jumped off the page? You said, oh, at last this horse is in the right race.
I haven't looked yet. I haven't even started to look. I'm worrying about Happy Valley at this stage. I don't even look at the entries. I wouldn't even know what's in, and I'm not going to say anything because I don't know. And I only give an opinion when I know.
No, love your work. That's fair and real.
But I do know this. We Are Hero, which Clint mentioned, he's run time. He's won 3 out of his last 4. He's absolutely flying, that horse.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. You can buy the time, and of course, Hutchie's Honkers is the place to see it all. And of course, hopefully you're watching us on 7+ if you're in Australia, or otherwise somewhere around the world. You can make sure you consume us through all the various forms as well. And Hutchie's Honkers will be coming out on Sunday morning.
Richo, have you got any advice for the weather on the weekend for the big days racing at Randwick? Any advice?
Well, this is where it's interesting. And I know, fair enough. I completely butchered it last week. Yesterday, I was in Sydney for the Easter yearling sales, and they told me there was 70 mils of rain coming for the day, and they got none. So
You look like you got sunburnt.
I think I got sunburnt. So the Weather Bureau can get in the bin with all my tips last week, but the championships in Sydney will be awesome. And Shane, I'll make sure I'm going to send you a special text. I'm going to walk the track and send you a message.
Who wins? Animo or what's it called? The other one? I can't
Dubai
remember.
Unicorn Lion, the Japanese horse.
That beats him, does it? I don't know it.
If the track's dry enough for him, I'm going to have a bet on him.
Okay, it's going to be a great race, isn't it?
Going to be a beauty.
I do have a little bit of advice here as well.
Uh-oh.
I don't often give you advice, Richo.
I always listen when you
But,
do.
Of course, William Haggis trains
Yes.
Dubai Honour.
Yes.
And I did have an interesting interview with him many years ago. I abbreviated his first name because I heard a few people do that.
You didn't go with Willie or
I
Will?
did, and the look of disdain and disgust that he gave me. This was back actually when I was in Hong Kong. wasn't pleasant. So if he does manage to win the race, then make sure that you get William out, not the abbreviated
I have
version.
had the pleasure of interviewing him on a number of occasions, and each time he comments on my outfit. So I will be getting my absolute best tie. It'll probably be Hermes for the day because I know that he will comment on it. Hey, great show, boys. Looking forward to a great week of racing. See you all soon. Thanks for watching the Triple Trio.